Welcome to Porch Play Chats, sponsored by the American Association for Promoting the Child's Right to Play, or more affectionately named IPA USA. IPA USA is the USA affiliate of the International Play Association. As part of our efforts to promote play, we're happy to introduce to you our Porch Play Chats. These are conversations that focus on a wide range of topics from experts that are just as passionate about play as we are. You can find the latest Porch Play Chats and our past Porch Play Chats and learn more about IPA USA by visiting our website at ipausa.org. And up in that top right hand corner, you can access our Facebook page, our Instagram account, and our YouTube channel. One Porch Play Chat is released every Monday on the YouTube channel and on our Facebook pages. I'm Deb Lawrence, and I'm president of IPA USA. And with me on the porch this morning or today is Lisa Murphy,
Hello.
a board member and an expert on play. I'm sure you recognize Lisa. And joining us today is Samuel Broden.
Hi, everyone.
Sam, we're so glad to have you. Samuel, we're so glad to have you. So, honoring childhood is the work of Samuel Broden. And since 2005, Samuel has worked with children in a variety of roles, and his philosophy is deeply rooted in the importance of nature and the joy of allowing children to discover who they truly are. He currently resides in Oregon with his husband Perry and their dog Oliver. We'll have to see Oliver soon.
Yes, definitely.
And Perry if he's around.
Yeah.
So, Samuel's topic today is the importance of weapon play and how to talk to children about it. And so, Samuel, one of the questions that we have about this is, this is such a controversial topic based on the setting and the context of where people live. So, what is a misconception about children's play that you feel parents and teachers might have when we're talking about weapons play?
So I think for anyone really who's like worked in the field for like a good amount of time, like it's always been just in our automatic answer is like there's no weapons at school, there's no guns, there's no these, and so for me for the longest time that was the same thing, right? Because I've been working with kids for so long that was always just the answer that I got and the answer that I gave. But I feel like if we really took the time to think about, number one, why the children are participating in this type of play, and then also what they can gain from it, we can see that it's a extremely important part of their development and of their play. And when we give them the space and the trust to play in this way and kind of just play as they will, we'll end up seeing better behavior. We'll end up seeing, really great development of a lot of skills that we want the children to have. And so I think it'll be surprising to a lot of people if they just kind of give that trust to the children and allow them to have this type of play, with agreements and with boundaries that you make together with the children. I think it's a great way to not only talk about these topics with the children and actually give them a chance to talk back with you, but there's so many like really amazing things that the children can learn, including the idea of consent, which is a super important topic that I think
I just wrote that down. I was hoping you were going to talk about that.
and that's so good because I feel like we think about how to talk to children about that a lot, and I feel like when we hear it, we're like, oh God, that's such a huge topic. Like, how on earth could I ever even bring that up to kids? But this conversation is like literally the perfect way to do it, and it's a really great way to kind of get that idea in their heads and get them kind of thinking about what it means to make sure that whatever you're doing is okay with the other people that you're doing it with, and all of those types of things. So I think that it's really important for us in general, but especially when it comes to this, is that just giving that trust to the children. And I think that that's something that kind of goes across everything that we do with kids, but especially when it comes to their play and kind of allowing them to kind of take the driver's seat in what they're doing.
I think a lot of adults find it counterintuitive that the more I allow this style of play to happen, like it's hard for me to wrap my brain around the fact that some of my the behaviors that cause me concern or that that I don't like,
Yes.
that those actually go away. And I think that can be really tricky for some adults to wrap their brain around.
Yeah, definitely, because I feel like the idea is, okay, well, if I allow them to kind of have this type of play, then I'm just creating violent children and I'm just creating a violent classroom and I'm just, all these types of things. But it's really not, that's not what the play is about, and
Exactly.
that's not why they're engaging in the play, And it's interesting to think that children are going to participate in this type of play no matter what.
Mhm.
They're going to do it whether it's against the rules at school or not, and I would much rather have it be, if they're going to do it, I want to be able to have that conversation with them and kind of set this tone of the best way to do it, and kind of how to go about it in the most positive and safe way, um than kind of just saying no and letting them figure out how they're going to play it,
Mhm.
because that's where we're going to end up having different types of issues, with kind of the hurting of each other and those types of things when they don't really have the chance to conversate about what we're doing and why we're doing it and how we can do it appropriately. um
I want to interrupt again. Sorry about
Mhm.
that.
no, it's
Just for the
fine.
sake of clarity, for people who might not be as familiar as we are with
Mhm.
some of the language we're using, can you share with us your definition, like put some parameters on what you're calling weapon play and maybe how that might or might not be the same as what some of us call power play or the gun play or the rough and tumble play? If you could
Yeah,
speak to that.
yeah, of course. So for me, weapon play is really kind of when we see the children, like, okay, so like at my school, we're a nature school, so we're outside a lot. So that's when we see the children, using these loose parts, using these sticks, using these things to swords, or this person is the king and this person is the knight and this person is evil and this person is good, those types of things where they're
Mhm.
playing kind of superhero-ish kind of play, where they're turning different items into weapons, so not
Mhm.
even that they have, a pretend gun or a pretend sword or whatever, it's these things that they're pretending with. And so that's what I see a lot of with my kindergartners, and that's what I'm kind of referring to when I speak about this weapon play, is just, it's just really that, is that they're creating weapons and they're using them in imaginative play with each other.
So, Samuel, I have a question. So, when we were getting to know each other before the porch play chat started, you talked about this conversation that you had with
Yes,
children.
yes.
So, would you give us some idea of what the context of that conversation was, how it came up, and how you handled it? Because I think teachers are like, "Oh, I don't even want to go there. Parents will be
Right.
mad at me."
Yes, yes.
It's like a no man's land.
Totally, totally. It's definitely that. And I think that I had noticed in the last few months that there was like an influx of this type of play. Um, and so I kind of noticed myself a little bit, kind of going back to that, like, no, we don't play that way. No, we don't play that way. And then I kind of just sat and just thought to myself, like, why are we saying this? Like, what is the purpose behind what we say, And so I really kind of had to like do some like thinking for myself. And in my classroom, we have three kind of agreements that we have. We don't really have like a long list of classroom rules of, walk over here and, all these types of things. It's really a conversation that we had where we said what's important for us in our classroom, And so basically what we make sure everything we're doing is that we're kind to ourselves and we're kind to others and we're kind to the environment, that the magic three, I guess. And so when I was thinking about them playing weapons and us telling them no, I was thinking, well, they're doing all of these three things that we've talked about, they're not hurting each other, they're not
Mhm.
hurting themselves, they're not, you know hurting the environment or doing anything like that, so why are we telling them no? So then for me, a lot of the times if I'm thinking about something, I talk about it with the kids. Like we have regular conversations like every day, like all the time. We'll just, whatever it is, our feelings, what's going on in the day, whatever, we'll just sit and we'll talk. And so I decided like I'm just going to talk to them about this. And honestly, I went into the conversation like not really expecting like an amazing conversation about weapons with these children, but it actually ended up being probably one of the most amazing conversations I've ever had with a group of children. And so I kind of just sat with them and I just brought it up and I said, hey, I know that we've been playing a lot, and I brought a stick. We have a little nature table in the classroom where the kids are allowed to bring stuff from outside and they explore it. And so I brought a stick and we sat down and I said, oh, this stick kind of looks like a gun. And I said, I've noticed you guys playing, pretending they're guns, pretending they're swords, and I kind of want to talk about that. And so they immediately all got like,
Uh-oh.
oh, I'm sorry. I know
Oh,
we're not,
interesting.
I'm sorry. And I was like, oh, no. And I said, that's not what I want to talk about. And so we kind of just talked about, I said, like, why do you guys like to do this? What type of things do you like to play? And, oh, we like to play monsters, or we like to play, bad guys, or whatever it was that they were saying. And I said, okay. And so then we kind of talked about the idea of, what are our agreements for the classroom, and, being kind to each other and being kind to ourselves and things like that. And it was just they really had the opportunity to really talk about it. And they really were like thinking it through as we're talking about it. And they're like, oh yeah, well, we are nice to each other. And, when I don't like it, I tell them I don't like it, and, all those things. And I was like, yeah, that's right. And so we kind of talked about what it meant and what is the best way to do it. And that, for us, it's okay, and for us, it's an acceptable form of play as long as, we're doing these types of agreements with each other. And I kind of started talking to them about, well, what happens when you're playing and someone you're playing with is feeling uncomfortable, or they're feeling scared, or they're asking you to stop. And their response was like automatically like, oh, well, we have to stop right away then. And so I said, exactly. And I said, so we need to make sure that, when we're doing this, we're asking people before we start, like, hey, we're going to play this. Do you want to play this? What we're doing. And if they say no, it's fine. And if they say yes, it's okay, but making sure that everyone that's involved is okay with it. And like, yeah, totally. Yeah. And they're like, yeah, because we want to make sure that everyone wants to do it. And they were just giving these answers that I was just like, I honestly like didn't know what to do, because I wasn't expecting that, And so we kind of ended that conversation in like such a beautiful way. We took the stick and like all the kids put their hands on it, and like they made like this pledge of like, when we play with weapons, this is what we do, and we make sure that we're kind, and we make sure all these things, right? And so it was really, really great. And what's better about it is that I hear them now like saying those things when I hear playing with the weapon play and stuff. I'll hear them saying like, so and so said she's uncomfortable, so we need to stop. Or are you making sure you're still pretending? Or are you making sure that you're being kind? All those types of things. And so when they come up to tell me, whoever did whatever it is that they did, they always will use those words like, oh, Mr. Samuel so and so wasn't stopping when I asked him to stop. And so then we have a conversation about that as it goes. So it was really like, it was such a beautiful thing. And I posted it on our little class page for the teachers to see. And like, I have put this whole long, like kind of like post about it just to let the parents know about it. And I was kind of nervous in posting that. Just obviously because, it's a known fact that weapons are supposed to be a no. And so when I posted it, I was like, I really want the parents to be involved in this, because it was such a beautiful thing that I saw with their kids. And I got so many positive responses from it. It was really, really amazing and really great to see. And it kind of just reminded me of how important that piece of the work that we do is connecting the families back with what we're doing.
I want to comment on something. First, I want to apologize for the sun issue. Sorry about that. But I love the reflection piece of allowing us as adults to sit back occasionally and almost without having an agenda, but you had the opportunity to check in to see if some of the stuff that you feel that you've been teaching and modeling, if it's stuck. And
Right.
They were able to, in an authentic, organic fashion, show you that it has. And so allow me to tip my hat to that. I mean, that's a nice testimony to the work that you're doing with the kids and with the families.
And
Thank you.
Samuel, the other thing that really resonated with me is that you trusted children.
Yes.
100%.
It was
Yeah.
so respectful. And I thought their initial reaction was typical, right?
Right.
Oh,
I'm not, sorry, I don't want to do it. I don't want to be in trouble.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to be in trouble.
I don't
I don't want to make you sad, Mr. Samuel.
I won't do it anymore.
And so I think the way you approached it, to to really hear where they were coming from and why.
Mm.
So many times I think we judge kids based on adult lenses.
Yes.
Oh, they're just being selfish. And I'm like, what is that for a
Yeah, exactly.
they're 3.
Yeah.
Come on. And and so I think that I was really impressed with that story in the way that you not only trusted them, but respected and listened, right? I don't think we listen
Mm-mm.
near enough.
No, and I think
Well,
that
and I
that's
think that's why, sorry, this is that conversational element. That's why I think we often shut it down, is because
Mhm.
we're not listening to the fact that these 4 or 5, 6-year-olds are actually communicating quite effectively.
Yes.
We get in the middle of it and mess it up.
Mhm.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's something that I notice a lot of times too with everything really is that adults don't respect children's feelings. They don't respect what they think. They don't respect what the children are saying or what they're wanting to do or any of those things. It's always like, oh no, it's fine, go. Oh no, it's fine, go, or whatever it is, right? But it's like when we're actually listening to the children and taking a cue from what they're enjoying, what they're not enjoying, why aren't they enjoying it? It's okay to change things in your classroom, to change things in your environment. It's okay to stop something that you're doing and go do something else because the children are not into it, or whatever it is. And so I feel like when we do kind of allow that, honestly, it's just trust in the children and just the respect again of yeah, let's have a conversation about it and let's figure it out together, because that's what we want them to do as they move on from us.
Mhm.
And I feel like now we have so many adults in the world who aren't able to do that. And we are trying to kind of cultivate this like new generation of adults who are able to speak for themselves, who are able to respect other people's thoughts and opinions, and who are able to feel trust in themselves to speak up and to say what they want and to say what they don't want. And so that's like one of the main goals in what I do with the children every day. It's like, yeah, they're going to learn all these things that I want them to learn, and that's fine. But what's more important to me is that they kind of discover who they are and they get that confidence in themselves, and they are trusting of themselves and trusting of others and trusting of kind of this community of people. um and so yeah, so for me it's like those types of conversations happen all the time with my students and with me, and me kind of being honest as well with them, when things aren't going right or when things aren't really working the way that I want it to work. It's, I don't know why adults always feel so like, I don't know, like they don't want to talk to kids, or they don't want to just be honest with it and say, hey, listen, I really don't think this is working and it's really frustrating me right now. So let's just
Mhm.
sit down and figure out what's happening and why it's not working. Because when we're honest about our emotions and when we're honest about what we're feeling, it's going to give the kids that feeling of like, oh, it's okay, I can tell you that I don't like this, or it's okay, I can tell you that I feel uncomfortable, or whatever it is. Um, so
Okay,
yeah,
Samuel, I'm going to
that
jump
was
back
that
in
was
because
a tangent.
no, I
And I
mean,
and I have a
really.
question too. You go.
Okay,
You go first.
so first, what I'm going to say is what you're doing is empowering children and giving them a sense of agency, right? I have control and power
Yes.
over what happens to me and what happens during my day. And oh my goodness, would that not be the most amazing lesson for kids to learn that that there are adults who will listen to me and who care about how I feel and think. And
Yes.
if we could just take that lesson from this porch play chat and get people to understand that it's okay to ask kids questions or to get their where they're feeling, because again, another sort of avenue for this is, the other thing we shut down is when children make biased or stereotypical comments. We go, we don't do that here, everybody's welcome, right? And we stop, right? That's no, say
Yeah.
what? Where did that come from? What? Let's talk about that, right?
Yeah.
So that we can get to that feeling of empowerment. How does it feel when someone says that to you? Is
Yes.
that, is that being respectful of our friends? Is that, so it's just that whole lesson piece for me is so rich.
Mhm.
And if we just trust children,
Yes, yes.
and I think that's important. So Lisa, I'm sorry, go ahead. I went
Oh
on and
no,
on.
no, don't be sorry at all. I was curious as to whether or not the children in your class, like, do you formally sit down and let them know, like, this is, and I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask you anyways to let you say it. Some places children are they test the waters the first couple weeks of school with a new teacher, new classroom. And do your children learn that those kinds of that style of play is okay here because they instigate it and you don't shut it down? Do you actually formally
Mhm.
sit down and make some kind of a, hey, these are things that are okay here that maybe weren't okay before? How have you, or does it differ depending on the kids?
Yeah, so honestly, it is kind of different each time. With this specific idea with the weapon play, this was something that we kind of sat and talked about because I felt like it was important to have that conversation. But there are other times when I kind of take the same idea into whatever else they're doing, and we kind of will either talk about it just in the moment and with whoever is doing it, and then say, okay, is this acceptable? Are you being kind? We ask these questions and we kind of have that conversation, because I feel like, as opposed to just saying no, 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 stop, 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 all those things like that, those things will those things will stop whatever behavior you're not enjoying, but it will stop it for like 5 seconds, and then
Mhm.
they're going to go back to doing it. So it's really just about having that conversation with them. Everything that I do with them is having a conversation with them about everything, no matter what it is or what time of the day that we're in. um but it's difficult sometimes, and it made me think about it when you asked this question. It's difficult sometimes to, so we sat and we made these agreements, and we this weapon play and everything is okay, and I the school, I told everyone about it and everyone saw it and everyone was into it. But it's also hard when I leave for the day or I'm off or whatever, and then I hear the other
Mhm.
teachers saying things like, no, we don't do that, no, we don't do that, no, we don't do that, and I'm like, and it's
Mr.
hard.
Samuel is not here today.
Yes, yes, exactly. And so then
That
it's hard
behavior can come back when Mr. Samuel comes back.
exactly. And it's hard for them because it's like they're kind of stuck then in that feeling of like, well, I don't want to do it anyways if this teacher's telling me no, but I know that it's okay. So that's a struggle that we have a lot, and so, and again, that's a conversation that I have with the kids when I say, a lot of people might not agree with some of the things that we do in here, and that's okay. And it goes back to that respect. We need to respect everybody. And so when someone's coming in and telling you that you're not supposed to do this, you are allowed to say something back to them and say, like, in a respectful way, like, this is what we do in our classroom. But if this teacher is still uncomfortable with what you're doing, then you're going to need to respect that, and we can have that conversation when I come back. And so really it's all about kind of giving that power to the children, like,
Mhm.
no, speak up and say the things that you want, and say what you're thinking, and say what really matters to you, because people forget all the time, like, all these feelings that we have as adults, children have these same feelings, except they've only been alive for 4 years to
Mhm.
try to figure out what all of these feelings are. So like, so when we were talking about, when the kids say kind of, maybe some biased things or whatever, and we always just shut it down and say, we don't say that here, or everyone's great. They don't know that. They don't,
Mhm.
they don't understand that. And so it's just all about kind of having that conversation with them and getting to the bottom of, what are you saying? Why are you saying it? What do you feel? What do you think? It's okay to ask questions. It's okay to wonder about things, and I just think it's such, when we do that, it's such a beautiful thing, and it really opens up a whole other world for these children, and then it opens up a whole other world for what we can do with them, because when we're having conversations with them, when we're being honest with them, giving them respect and the trust to conversate back with us, it's going to open up so much in our classroom, and the kids are going to open up so much, and they're going to feel so much more confident in who they are, which I think is something that would have been great for all of us to have when we were growing up, and that's one of the reasons why I have my classrooms this way and why I behave this way with children is because I didn't have somebody like that when I was growing up to look at and say,
Mhm.
who I am is okay, what I think is okay, all those types of things. And so then because of that, then we have this huge chunk of young adulthood where we're grappling with ourselves, trying to figure out all these different things that should have been figured out and supported for us from the beginning. And so
So
that's
Samuel, I have one more. I'm going to interrupt you one more time because I think another thing that you said is really what I think you've highlighted is that when we don't trust children and don't ask them about different things that we're seeing happening in the classroom, then they, and I'm going to do what I said you shouldn't be doing, but they then try to hide what they're doing
Mhm.
because they know they shouldn't be doing it
yes,
because you've told them that we don't do that here. Um, and that just that creates children who don't feel comfortable,
yes,
and so then they hide it, and then that's sometimes when we get into trouble. So what are we teaching them, right? What are we teaching them when we're telling them that they can't do that and then they go off and do it when they don't think we're watching? So I think those
Well,
are
we're essentially, and this is a whole other conversation, but we're telling them that that part of them is not okay here. So we completely negate that stupid poster that we've got on the wall that says, welcome, everybody's welcome here, except the parts of you that I don't really like or that make me uncomfortable. So, that's a really big conversation as I sit here in the shadow, trying to fight the sun, trying to
at least you have sun, Lisa.
I do.
It's nice.
How dare I complain about so much sun today on January? But yeah, and I think that's also important. And when you're allowing children the opportunity to have those conversations, to see that all of the parts of them, even if that's scary or they are feeling angry or loud or quiet or sad, and even if the teacher that they get next year isn't somebody who keeps it going,
Right.
they will remember that somebody at one point did. So when the teacher the year after that is like that, they're like, okay, I've done this before.
yes.
This, okay. And I think it might be fragmented a little more than would be ideal for young children, but it's more than so many of us got at all, right?
Yes.
Now, ideally, magic wand, we'd all be on the same page, right? We'd be creating environments for children where all of the adults are dialed in the way
Yeah.
that you're dialed in to the conversation piece and the agency piece.
Mhm.
But you're making the stride, right? You're taking that baby step, making that baby step. We
And
eat. How do we eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right?
And that's definitely
So
what it is. I mean, it's definitely baby steps because everybody knows these types of things where it's like trying to change an idea that's been held for so long in this field, especially when we have, a good number of people in this field have been in it for a very long time. And so it's very hard to kind of change the ideas around that. So that's why like things like these conversations are super important to kind of even just put that little seed in someone's mind. And when I had this conversation with the kids at my school, and there's a teacher that kind of shares the space with me with her classroom, and she overhears all the stuff that we do, and she was like, I went home and she goes, I told my husband, like, you literally changed my mind with this
Oh, wow.
topic just from listening to you and seeing how the children responded to the conversations that you had with them.
Look at that.
And
Oh, yeah.
that's, and
So
honestly,
much more than a workshop.
okay, I'm like,
Right,
okay, I'm done.
right.
Like, that's what it's about,
But that's what we know about people too. If you had an all hands staff meeting about how to be more like this,
Mhm,
but
mhm.
she was able to hear it and process it on her own and look at that. I mean,
Because you were telling a story and the
Yeah.
story was relevant, right?
Mhm.
Samuel, this has been amazing.
I know, oh my gosh, I could talk to you guys for so long, I swear.
And we're going to have you back because we definitely need to talk to you some more. So one of the things uh, we're certainly going to invite you back in March, but I'm gonna stop the recording in just a second, but don't go away. I have a couple more questions
Yes, yes.
for you. Okay, so
so thank
to
you,
learn
Samuel.
Yeah, so to learn more about Porch Play Chats, be sure and visit ipausa.org. Thanks for listening and keep on playing.
Bye-bye.
Bye.